US will give Ukraine legally binding guarantees. Trump has offered take it or leave it peace plan to Moscow. Putin hasn't responded. Will he end the war or keep calling the shots? Axios reports that Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, both serving as advisors to Trump, held talks on January 8 in Paris with Ukrainian and Russian delegations. Meeting focused on presenting a proposed US peace framework for Ukraine and Russia's willingness to engage with it. According to Axios, the Paris talks took place after 7 days of high-level consultations between US representatives, Ukrainian officials, and senior leaders from United Kingdom, France, and Germany. Those discussions centered on security guarantees for Ukraine and the broader contours of possible settlement to the nearly 4-year war. According to Axios, US offer has been nearly finalized and incorporates broad agreement from the Ukrainian government on most elements of the plan. Ukrainian officials have been informed that Washington intended to engage directly with Moscow once alignment with Kyiv was largely secured. The US delegation to the Paris meeting included Witkoff, a close Trump confidant who has been involved in diplomatic process, and Kushner, Trump's son-in-law and former senior White House advisor. The Russian side was presented by Dmitriev, who heads Russian Direct Investment Fund and has played a role in past back-channel engagement. While Axios did not publish the full details of offer, the reports indicate that the plan is aimed at formally ending the war and establishing long-term security guarantees for Ukraine. The offer was developed in close coordination with Ukrainian officials and refined during consultations with Europeans. Axios noted that Russia has not publicly committed to accepting the framework, and Moscow's official response remains unclear. The purpose of the Paris meeting was to better understand Kremlin's position and assess whether Russia is willing to seriously consider US-drafted plan. Ukrainian leaders were briefed ahead of time on the US plan to hold direct talks with Russians. The engagement with Dmitriev marks the first known step in that outreach following weeks of closed-door negotiations, according to Ukrainian officials. Axios further reports that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky could travel to US in the coming days to meet with Trump, potentially to finalize the deal. Security guarantees. An alternative scenario under discussion is a meeting on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos. The Paris meeting fits into broader diplomatic effort unfolding over recent months. Axios have reported that US national security advisors have been deeply involved in drafting this plan, which formally submitted feedback on the proposal prior to the Russian engagement. Earlier discussion related to the framework took place in Geneva and other European capitals. Europeans have also been consulted on enforcement mechanism and security guarantees that could accompany any ceasefire or negotiated settlement. Despite the new diplomatic activity, significant obstacles remain. Russia has rejected key elements of this plan, including the deployment of foreign troops or peacekeepers on Ukrainian territory, and continues to insist on conditions that Ukraine and its allies consider unacceptable. As Axios reports, the Paris meeting underscores a new phase of diplomacy, as US advisors test whether Moscow is willing to engage on a plan shared largely in coordination with Europe. For now, officials caution that the discussions remain exploratory with no public commitments from the Kremlin. Meanwhile, US and its European allies moved closer on Tuesday to finalizing a set of legally binding security guarantees for Ukraine, aiming to protect the country from renewed Russian aggression once a future peace deal is reached, according to Reuters. Senior US, European and Ukrainian officials gathered in Paris for high-level talks as part of what has become known also as Coalition of the Willing, a group working to define concrete security commitments that would take effect after a ceasefire or a deal reached, according to Reuters. The discussion marked a significant step forward, with US officials baking a broad framework of security guarantees alongside with Europeans. The guarantees are intended to deter future Russian attacks and, if deterrence fails, provide Ukraine with rapid response. Steve Witkoff, US envoy, told reporters that the security arrangements under discussion were designed to ensure Ukraine would not be left vulnerable after a peace agreement. Officials emphasized that the commitments would go beyond past political assurances and would be legally binding once activated. Reuters reported that a declaration issued at the Paris meeting outlines several core elements of this emerging framework. These include formal security commitments to Ukraine following a ceasefire, strengthened cooperation on defense and intel, and mechanism to ensure rapid coordination among allies in the event of renewed hostilities. European set guarantees are meant to be more than robust than previous arrangements offered to Ukraine, reflecting lessons learned since Russia's full-scale invasion. The goal is to create a lasting deterrent that would raise the cost of any future aggression. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the security guarantees document between Ukraine and the United States is close to completion and could soon be finalized with US President Trump, according to Reuters. Zelensky describes the talks as a major step forward, securing long-term protection. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said discussion underscored broad agreement among allies that any post-war arrangement must include strong, enforceable guarantees with US involvement. Leaders from France and Britain echoed that view, stressing that need for credible multinational deterrence force on the ground in Ukraine. While Reuters noted that final legal language is still being refined, officials indicated the guarantees could include rapid diplomatic, logistical, and military response if Ukraine is attacked again, expanding training, intel cooperation, and multinational deployments in Ukraine. The framework also envisions coordination mechanism between Ukraine and its partners to oversee implementation and ensure swift responses once a ceasefire is in place. Monitoring and verification elements tied to a post-war settlement are also part of this deal. Despite the progress, Russia has not endorsed this framework and remains opposed to several elements under consideration, including foreign troop deployments. Moscow has yet to respond publicly to this declaration. For Ukraine, the push for legally binding guarantees reflects long-standing concerns that any peace deal lacking concrete security commitments could leave the country exposed. Western officials told Reuters that the Paris talks represent an effort to balance Ukraine's demands for NATO-style protection with political and legal realities. While the deal has not yet been taken in the form of formal treaty, Reuters reported that officials see Paris Declaration as laying groundwork for binding commitments that would come into force once an eventually peace deal is brokered in Article 5-like security guarantee. That's all for today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and glory to Ukraine.